I would like to announce that a quorum is present. The meeting has been duly called, and notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Opens Meetings Act. We will now convene into closed session as authorized by Texas Government Code Section 551, specifically 551.071, 072, 074, and 082. The time is 6:02 p.m. on August 12th, 2013. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August 12th board meeting for the Lewisville Independent School District Board of Trustees. The time now is, I have 7 o'clock, and we will now reconvene into open session. If you'd all please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you all for being here tonight. Before we move to consider items discussed in closed session, the first item I have is to announce the resignation of Dr. Mark Welding, effective immediately from the LISD Board of Trustees. Any further action will be taken later on when it's been duly posted. I need a motion to approve the personnel recommendations be approved as presented by the administration.
I move that all personnel recommendations be approved as presented by the administration.
I have a motion, Ms. Latham. I need a second, Ms. Sheffield. Any questions? All in favor? That is unanimous. Ms. Latham.
I move that Kelly Lynn Hyenga be approved as principal at Old Settlers Elementary as recommended by the administration and personnel selection committee.
I have a motion, Ms. Latham. I need a second, Ms. Duke. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous.
Ms. Hyenga, would you like to introduce your family or anyone that you brought with you?
Thank you. I need another motion, please. Ms. Duke?
Ms. Kyer, I move that Sharon Hyer be approved as principal of Timber Creek Elementary as recommended by administration and the personnel selection committee.
I have a motion, Ms. Duke. A second, Ms. Vaughn. Any questions, concerns? All in favor? That is unanimous. Ms. Hyer is here today. Mrs. Hyer? Oh, there you are. Do you have family today with you? Well, thank you very much. Congratulations. Nothing better than a woohoo. Moving on, we have one more motion. Ms. Sheffield?
I move to approve the additional expense of $12,500 for school finance litigation.
I have a motion, Ms. Sheffield. Second, Ms. Duke. Any questions, concerns? Mr. McDaniel?
You said $12,500. I thought I read $50,000.
I was going to ask, is this for the Texas School Coalition?
Yes. Dr. Brant?
That's correct.
Should be $50,000.
We need to change that.
Oops, okay.
Thank you, Mr. McDaniel.
Yes, just change, yes.
Okay, I want to amend that to, I move to approve the additional expense of $50,000 for school finance litigation.
Okay, motion, Ms. Sheffield. Second, Ms. Duke. Thank you for pointing that out, the difference, Mr. McDaniel. Okay, all in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on to awards, recognitions, and presentations. This is one of my favorite ones. Dr. Rogers?
Ms. Kyer, School Board, Dr. Waddell. Jennifer Mattingly, one of our longtime educators in LISD, was named by the Texas PTA as Elementary Principal of the Year. There were over 300 principals across Texas that were nominated by parents, teachers, and friends of public schools. The state PTA honored Ms. Mattingly at the Anatole in July. One of the questions that she was asked was, how has PTA made a difference in my career? And her answer was, it's simple. They support learning, passion, friendship, character, innovation, and creativity. PTA makes a difference in the lives of children, teachers, families, and communities every day. They provide unity and support. I'd like to ask that Natalie Melton, who is one of our LISD counselors and also a McAuliffe parent who actually nominated Jennifer for the award, to come give the rest of it.
President Kyer, Dr. Waddell, board members. On behalf of the McAuliffe PTA and its board, it's my pleasure to share with you just a few of the limitless ways in which Mrs. Jennifer Mattingly is deserving of the honor of 2013 Texas PTA Elementary Principal of the Year. To begin, Ms. Mattingly's philosophy for her campus is work hard, play hard, and no one exemplifies this better to the students, teachers, and parents than Ms. Mattingly herself. This mindset has proven successful year after year, as McAuliffe Elementary has achieved high academic success along with a strong, positive school and community environment centered around having fun together. It could be that the academic success drives the fun, or perhaps the fun drives the academic success. But either way, Mrs. Mattingly has found the formula for success in both at McAuliffe. The show of support from the McAuliffe PTA towards the school can largely be attributed to Mrs. Mattingly's unending support of her PTA and its board members. Both seamlessly enhance the other, resulting in a synergy that is hard to match. Whether it's the very creative ways in which Ms. Mattingly promotes PTA membership, or maybe it's the community pep rally for Marcus High School hosted annually at McAuliffe, or the fall ball frenzy played on the coveted Marcus High School baseball field, or I must include the school's signature event, its annual chili cook-off, open to the entire community. It is through events such as these that keep her students motivated to work their hardest, reach their potential, and make good choices. This is what makes Mrs. Mattingly such a one-of-a-kind principal who is adored by thousands and is so deserving to be here before us today. At this time, would you please join me in honoring the 2013 Texas PTA Elementary Principal of the Year, Mrs. Jennifer Mattingly. Can I ask our McAuliffe friends and guests, McAuliffe students, PTA board members, if you would come join us.
While they're walking over, you know, I'm not too shy, so I don't mind taking a mic anytime. But I would be remiss to not take the opportunity to thank you guys and our board and my PTA board. And, you know, this is why we do it. You guys scoot over here. You guys, this is why we come to work every day. This is why you guys are here tonight, and this is why we have wonderful people that serve on our board. So it's definitely a community, and I've been here this is starting 19 years, and really to me it's the only home that I've known. I've never lived anywhere this long, and it's all about these kids. It's about the kids, and it's about this community, and whatever we have to do to continue to grow and be amazing and wonderful, that's what we're going to do. So thanks to all of you guys who make this possible. PTA is about parents, teachers, and our families and kids, and you guys make me look really good, but I do it because I'm blessed to have a wonderful support group. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you to my staff and all the parents, and to you guys because you're pretty awesome. So thank you very much.
And she forgot these folks on the front row. Her husband, Chris Mattingly, the principal of Briar Hill, and her daughters Molly and Riley.
Madam Chair, can I say a few words since I was there when she received the award?
Please do.
Barbara Brown and I were at the actual recognition, which was a big honor, and so I wanted to give you a little insight on how amazing this award is and how blessed we are to have Miss Mattingly. It was during a leadership event in Dallas at the Anatole where over 3,200 people were trained, local leaders. We have 2,700 PTAs in Texas and 508,000 members. And we're very proud and blessed in our district to have a PTA at every school. That's not the norm. And as your past membership chair for Texas PTA and a board member, I would encourage all of you to go out and join PTA. And I have to say, Ms. Mattingly, you had the best acceptance speech that day. So very proud of you.
Thank you all very much. Before I start on the request to address the board, we have 2 Boy Scouts here working on one of their badges. Where are they? Tyler and Tanner Mosley. Oh, there you are. I thought you for some reason on the edge over here. And you're from Troop 753 over in Carrollton. Well, welcome, and I hope you get some great information tonight. Thus being said, we'll move on to the open meeting portion. The here request to address the board. I think I counted 10 cards. And a person desiring to address the Board of Trustees must fill out a speaker's card prior to the meeting. No presentation shall exceed 3 minutes, and we will have our handy-dandy clock up on the overhead there. And the board cannot deliberate on any subject that is not included on the agenda. So, first I have Mr. Todd Smith.
Good evening. My home backs up to the property where the newly constructed Flower Mound High School Sports Complex is, and so I get to see the construction progress on a daily basis. And I just wanted to point out 2 observations where I believe LISD is not in compliance with the plans that were presented, amended, and agreed upon by both Michael Perry of LISD and the town of Flower Mound 4th, 2013 at the Flower Mound Town Council meeting. The first one is the scoreboard for the baseball team, for the baseball stadium. The placement for the baseball stadium was changed from right field to left field in the meeting, and that was agreed upon. However, the mounting posts have been installed in right field. They're sitting there in right field right now, so I'm just worried that LISD is wasting money because you agreed to put it in left field. So they're wasting money by, one, having it already started the installation in the wrong place, and you'll have to correct that. Also, the second observation is the lights, the stadium lights, the baseball, softball stadium lights were supposed to be installed with blinders on them. And for the baseball stadium, over half of the lights currently do not have blinders on them. And the lights just went up over the weekend, and I think they probably were finalized today. So over half of them don't have the blinders on them in the baseball stadium, and many of them on the softball stadium don't have the blinders on them. So I'm hoping that that's going to get corrected. And really what I'm looking for is just what communication will be provided, ensuring that these 2 items will be corrected to comply with what was presented and approved to the town of Flower Mound.
Thank you, sir. Speaking of the town of Flower Mound, Mr. Brian Webb. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you, and timing's everything. Brian Webb, 4112 High Road. And this Saturday, Flower Mound, Highland Village, Lewisville we came together to begin a community conversation on drugs. One panelist observed that if you can't start early, start today. I couldn't agree more. We learned the drug threats today are very different than what we may have experienced growing up. Pot, 6 to 8 times stronger than what I saw in my parking lot in high school. Highly potent and addictive pharmaceuticals, they're as close as mom and dad's medicine cabinet. Heroin, once thought to be a drug of the city, is now in suburbia. And we learned that too many of our kids in our neighborhoods are overdosing and dying. We heard from Felicia, a charming woman who told us about her daughter's struggles and addiction. We met Nathan, a Marcus graduate, who loved drugs until he figured out they did not love him back. And we cheered when he announced that last week marked 4 years of being clean and sober. And we heard from 2 lovely young people, Kyle and Jess, who are working each day to find purpose in their lives that does not include drugs. We heard educators respond to questions, and we learned that what many thought would be easy answers are full of complications. We were challenged to shift the conversation from blame and mistrust to collaboration, with the thought that if we work together, more progress can be made more quickly. Left unanswered is how we do that shift. The last panel was a group of professionals who work with young people and their families, helping and supporting them through recovery. There are many different approaches, but as we heard from Nathan, the person has to be ready to accept the help. Until that time, the parents and the families, they need the support of their community and their neighbors and their friends. We also heard that parents must be strong enough and brave enough to be parents first and friends later. Yet we were cautioned to avoid going to judgment because nobody truly knows what's going on, and that sometimes drugs will just reach out and grab that kid. We wrapped up the day by asking some questions: what made sense, what didn't, and most importantly, where do we go from here? How do we keep the conversation going? I'm probably going to run a couple of seconds over. Please forgive me. As we were cleaning up the room, I was told about a father who had been there earlier in the day. He came looking for help and answers. See, he had just learned a day or two ago that his child had a drug problem. On Saturday, he came, he got some answers, and he found some resources for the help he needed. Ladies and gentlemen, that made the day worthwhile. Everything else from here on is gravy. And it's also why the conversation must continue. In closing, I want to express my appreciation to Dr. Waddell and his team who served on our panel, our education panel. Some of the questions were a little tough. Your team did good, and I appreciated it. So I guess the question is to Carol and Kathy and Tricia and Mike and Chris and Brenda, let's keep the conversation going. It doesn't end with one day, but let's mark some successes as we move on down the road and try to keep a few more kids healthy and alive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. We appreciate the towns around us putting that together. The next card I have is Lance Dooley.
And I agree, and thank you. My name is Lance Dooley, and my wife and I are halfway through our 25-year journey in LISD this year. We have been, the last 12 years, we've had kids growing up in Heritage and now in Briar Hill. Soon they'll move on to Marcus. And I've heard some rumblings, or I've been led to believe that the board is considering implementing pass-fail grading systems in the middle school and elementary. And I want to, as a parent strongly discourage this system. As a parent, I teach my children how to work hard, and as a product of that hard work, you achieve. You don't achieve by attending nor participating. It's what you put in is what you get out. So the effort distinguishes the credibility. As I was driving over here, I saw some boys out on the football field practicing, and it was looked up at my thermometer. It was 99 degrees, late August or early mid-August, and I realized having a pass-fail is the academic equivalent to a coin toss to decide an athletic competition after spending all day and all summer preparing for that contest. As a business person in the community, I want to, again, discourage the adoption of a pass-fail system in the district, in middle schools and elementaries even. It nowhere edifies or strengthens the self-esteem of a child simply by telling them you passed. Teaching them the expectations distinguishes that. In my current role, I have had the privilege of mentoring and discipling and developing several different young professionals, and we have a very specific criteria we follow at my work. It's the SMART criteria. It is where you communicate specific, measurable, attainable, reasonable, and trackable objectives to individuals, and it's with that they excel in, not with just participating and getting their green participation ribbon. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next one I have is Miss Julie Mosley.
Hey, I thought about dressing up, but I figured you wouldn't recognize me if I did. Really, for those who don't know, I am the outgoing LISD Council PTA's president, and I am ashamed to say and want to apologize that I have never once been to a board meeting, mostly because they fall on scout nights, and it just so happens my boys, who are the scouts here tonight, need to come to a school board meeting, hence I am here. And I just wanted to say thank you for coming to my meetings the last 2 years. I apologize that this is the first meeting I've come to. Thank you for all of the work that you have done. Thank you for the research. Thank you for the strategic design. Thank you for making the really hard decisions and for the decisions you're going to make. And when I was rehearsing in my mind what I might say, I thought, well, my boys are going to be products of Lewisville Independent School District, and I immediately caught myself thinking, that is industrial America speaking, and that we need to change our mindsets. And I was happy that I caught myself, because that means my mindset is changing from being products of to enjoying thriving, productive lives. And that is what my boys are going to leave LISD with. Productive, thriving, productive lives. So thank you guys for everything you do.
And thank you, Julie, for all your hard work. I know being the Council of PTA's president, and that covers all of LISD. She's a great singer. She make up great songs. But next time you have 3 minutes, you can come and sing a song. But thank you for all the hard work you've done over the years. We really appreciate all your hard work. The next card I have is Carol Baugh, B-A-U-G-H.
Okay, how's that? Okay. It says press button to activate microphone, so I'm following directions. I'm Carol Baugh, the parent of an 8th grader at Briar Hill Middle School, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Our district has a history of excellence. Before making significant policy changes, we need thoughtful and careful consideration at many levels to discern what is in the best interest of our children.
Any proposed changes to grading policy should be publicized, widely circulated, and discussed, but that hasn't happened with proposed middle school grading policies. It concerns me that the word parents appears nowhere in the strategic design vision, missions, or goals. I contrast that with East Dallas Community School, a Dallas elementary school whose tagline is, "Start young, involve parents." Although their student population is chosen by lottery from low-income families, they have a longitudinal high school graduation rate of 95%, with 86% going on to college. This is a school that demands and achieves excellence. I want results like theirs for our district. I contrast that with what I see in the proposed middle school grading policies. I see a policy that may look good on paper, but I have serious reservations about some of the implementation. I'm concerned that under the proposed policy, grades cannot reflect, and I quote, responsibility, punctuality, timeliness, neatness, and organization. What would happen in your workplace if these qualities and traits were disregarded? I'm also concerned that educational outcomes will not improve by merely changing grading policies. We need more parental and community involvement in our lower performing schools. A teacher cannot simultaneously teach and reteach 9 weeks of material. There are obviously opportunities to fine-tune and adjust our current grading policies. I agree that points should not be rewarded for non-curricular things like bringing in Kleenex. I agree that zeros shouldn't be handed out lightly. I do not agree, however, with the following, and I quote, even if a project is not turned in or a test is incomplete, a teacher can informally assess and look at previous work samples to determine levels of proficiency. If a teacher can grade based on what they think a student knows, then why should a student complete any project? Why should a student who chooses not to do work be able to achieve the same grade or better than someone who does? That would be a serious demotivator for the students who are completing assignments. First grade grading policies were significantly altered last month. Let's digest those changes and see how they're implemented in the classroom before considering any other significant grading changes at any level. I understand that the middle school changes have been tabled for now, and I think that's very wise. Thank you for your attention and consideration.
Thank you. The next card I have is for Kendra Stevenson. Kendra Stevenson. Hi, Kendra.
Hi, guys. I want to talk about 3 issues, but in general, the issues that I wanted to address with you, I find that it's really hard to find a concise problem statement when you guys are making policy changes. So I'm not sure whether, what problem we're trying to solve, and I'm not sure how to tell if it's been solved by the changes that were made. So the first policy issue I want to address with you is IT. At the beginning, or in May, I sent everyone on the board an email asking for help understanding how our IT implementation, 1, what the rollout schedule was going to be, 2, how you guys were squaring recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics to limit screen time with increased screen time at school, and various other questions. And I appreciate the few of you that tried to help me get those answers, but unfortunately, I got maybe 2 of my 6 questions partially answered. So I'm hoping now that we're all getting back into the mode of school that I can get some of those answers. The next thing I wanted to address was the grading policy concerns. I'm not sure if I'm for or against it. I don't think there's enough information out there. But what I am concerned about, I did get an anonymous copy of it dropped off in my mailbox. And reading it, I can understand why people are extremely concerned of some of the policy statements that are in there, and I'm hoping that those can be addressed quickly before any of this is rolled out. Lastly, I wanted to talk to you about the Gifted and Talented program in LISD. I have 2 children at Old Settlers in that program. Over the last, I'm not sure when some of the resources were cut out of that program, but the resources over the last 5 years have been reduced. However, we're at the same time we're shifting from a pull-out emphasis to a push-in emphasis in teaching these classes. And I've spent probably an hour and a half or 2 hours talking with the district coordinator to understand why. And her opinion was that we didn't have enough participation in gifted and talented, and this was a way to increase participation. At my children's school, we have 90 children fully qualified to be in gifted and talented with one teacher. Now she's going to be also pushing into every grade level for different, for children that may have qualified in one area but not across the board. They're not fully qualified. That's a lot to put on one teacher. So my concern and what I would ask you is, one, let's look at the resources, because I have heard that there are some elementary schools in the district where there's only 4 children in gifted and talented. I don't believe for a second that there's only 4 children. But I also want you to make sure we have the resources and that you consider the emotional needs of gifted and talented children before you go to a fully push-in model.
Okay, thank you, Kendra. Dr. Conger?
I have this on my iPad, but I brought paper. Okay, so I'm Marla Conger. I'm a pediatrician. Been in the area for 22 years, and I'm well aware of the need for technology and keeping up with the advances in the world. My office has been almost completely digital for 13 years. In addition, much of my continuing medical education is online. However, it is augmented by actually being in the field and doing it and having mentors and peers that teach me in person as well. I would never replace their hands-on learning. I see these changes in learning as inevitable. Teachers will be replaced. But implementation of the technology is very time-consuming. Trust me. And I'm the lead physician of technology in our office. So one of the typical characteristics that I wanted to talk about in developing children and young teen brains is how they have poor impulse control and not filtering information well. And a study with online learning approach showed that when learning online with many advertisements included, the children remembered the advertisements over the educational information. So I wanted to make sure that we were looking at the quality of information given to our children. Also, social media will be something children will eventually have to navigate and learn. However, I do not think it needs to be in the schools. As we know, cyberbullying and sexting and Facebook depression have been well documented. The other issue is how addicting these devices are. I see patients from 0 to 21. I swear it's amazing how many 1-year-olds have devices in their hands. And we know the American Academy of Pediatrics, to address one point, is under 2 years of age, no TV, no iPad, no iPhone. But we do want to talk about how we need more education on how children are going to implement these devices. And so I'm worried about how can we control the addiction of these devices. Can we teach the children? Can we have classes in the classroom and talk about how we can control addiction, how we know protocols, how we actually can get kids to put down their devices? Can we teach the search engines are not always predictable? I mean, you'll start off with one, comment, and you'll be zipped off to another area, and you will go to an unsanctioned site, perhaps, by just one search. So where is the safety protocols in place for that? That's another question I have. And why do we need to add games and music to our LISD devices?
Okay, ma'am, that was your 3 minutes.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next name I have is Vicki Christensen.
LISD Board of Trustees, thank you for the opportunity to address you. My name is Vicki Christensen, and I have 3 children who attend school in this district. I'm here tonight to share 3 points which I feel are important to bring to your attention. First, we as parents want to be sure that you, the board, and Upper LISD administration are not only hearing us, but are listening and doing something about the concerns we are sharing with you. We also want to be part of the process prior to the formation of committees to help determine what committees need to be formed. We don't want to be part of committees where the finished outcome is already planned. We feel that yours and the LISD administration's perception is that we haven't understood what you've been saying in reference to changes that have been or are in the process of being implemented. Your perception seems to be that if we understood what you were saying, we wouldn't be opposed to these changes. But that is not true. We have a clear understanding of the changes that are being implemented, and some of them we don't agree with. My second point addresses the speed at which change is happening in our district. We have been told by various LISD administrators that we as a district are way behind the times in reference to district's educational process. We have a great district, producing an immense number of national merit scholars, 72 in the class of 2013. Many people have moved here because of the reputation and standards that our district has been known for. We can keep that status if we implement change at a reasonable pace. We cannot keep this high reputation if we continue to implement change as quickly as we have the past 2.5 years. We can compete with other nations of the world who have high educational standards if we implement change reasonably. An example of this would be the process of implementing the use of the technology. First, a framework needs to be created to determine how it will be used in the classroom for educational purposes. Then students and parents need to be educated on expectations, parameters, and limits to the students' use of their personal and school-issued devices. My last point comes about after I had the opportunity to attend a meeting where Mr. Jamie Vollmer spoke. I agreed with many of his philosophies. One thing I did not agree with was that change needs to start in the community. I believe that change needs to start with teachers in the classroom. Parents and community members will have more confidence in changes if they believe that teachers are prepared to implement those changes properly. It seems that many teachers in our district have not bought into the changes currently happening. All teachers need to be able to voice their opinions, whether or not they are in agreement with upper administration. We as parents are hearing that only teachers whose opinions are in line with upper administration have a voice. Thank you for your time and consideration of these matters. In the end, I know we all want what's best for LISD students.
Thank you, ma'am. And the last card I have is Brandy Williams.
Good evening to the board and all of the attendees here. I am here in my official capacity as the president of United Educators Association, and on behalf of our association, as well as all of the teachers, paraprofessionals, and other staff members that we hold as membership, we would like to give our sincere thanks and gratitude for your implementing the salary increase for teachers and paraprofessionals and staff across this district. Not only does that make us feel valued and highly honored, but it shows us that we're committed to moving our salaries in our school and to being competitive within this region. That is not a task that we take lightly. We understand how hard it is to implement salary increases in a budget, especially when the state has squelched most of your monies and told you to do more with less. So with that being said, we are quite impressed with your efforts. We are quite impressed with your ability to honor us in this way, and we would like to offer our sincere thanks and gratitude in continuing a partnership working for the best of the students and the teachers in this district.
Well, thank you, ma'am. And that was our last card. So, Dr. Waddell, did you want to say? No, okay. Okay, moving on to our informational items. LISD Strategic Design, Dr. Haynes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are 2 topics for our presentation this evening under Strategic Design. The first topic is our work from the May Learning Leaders meeting, and this Learning Leaders for everyone in the central office, that we look at how we can become the kinds of leaders that you, the public, expect for us to be for our children in the district. We ask our principals and central office what would be the top 5 priorities for the district for this upcoming school year, and they are listed before you in your information item. These items will also be used as a part of Dr. Waddell's superintendent evaluation, but not only his evaluation, his leadership team's evaluation too. Did you want to add anything to that, Dr. Waddell, regarding the evaluation piece?
It's what we've been doing since last year, so you have in your hands the goals that the principals identified, so that's what we'll be focusing on.
The second part of the presentation, we do have some guests tonight. We have Principal Jeff Kosh from Lewisville High School and his campus design team. As you read in the information, this is the first time that our district has ever had this kind of opportunity for our campuses and teachers to be the visionary people for their campus. And during our summer conference, we had the opportunity to work with the president of Schlechte Center, Mr. George Thompson, and his associate, Nancy Rendoni, to help us, guide us through the process of how we might work together in determining the future innovative work for each of our 63 campuses. Mr. Kosh and his team have kindly agreed to come tonight to share with you their thoughts on campus design teams. Mr. Kosh, would you like to introduce your team, and you can begin your presentation.
I sure will. Thank you for having us here tonight. With us is a partial team. I've got my administrative team here. I've got several teachers who have helped us with this process. I can tell you last year, my administrative team and I got together about this time before school started and said, you know, we really need to have an emphasis on professional learning. We do a lot in August. Teachers do a lot throughout the summer. But what about the rest of the year as we keep going? And so together as an administrative team, we came up with several ways that we could change what we do at Lewisville High School from an administrative standpoint. We restructured our faculty meetings to where now they're learning times and not necessarily just informational delivery methods. We've went through all our departments and found teacher leaders who could teach teachers how to teach, or different crafts or different topics that are important to them. And that's kind of started within our building, and then all of a sudden teachers from other buildings were coming over on their conference period whenever we were providing these opportunities. Also, we restructured our school day so that our teachers, common teachers, departmentally, had off during the school day so they could discuss their craft during the school day, not before school, not after school, but during the school day, not department meetings, but talking about how to become better teachers during the school day. Fast forward to July 30th, as Dr. Haynes alluded to, this powerful group of teachers came together to work on the next stage of this. It was always top down. It was, here's what we think we need to do. Here's what we need to have done at our school to get better. When we brought them to Hebron to our summer training, a lot of things started to happen differently. And so our campus design team took part in an activity to where they had to chart out perception of Lewisville High School versus the reality. And those reality checks are sometimes hard to digest. But through that activity, this powerful group of teachers came up with our design team. Once again, this process, this plan is teacher designed, teacher driven, and it's what the teachers decided that we needed to do with our design teams. And notice the tagline: engage to learn, learn to engage. And I think that's very important, not just for the students, but for the adults. The mission statement for LISD is there, but this team also came up with a mission statement for this group. and it was build relationships to enhance student learning experiences. Build relationships between adults, between students to students, and adults to adults. And I think that's the important part of professional learning and getting better. We realize that we have to get better as adults in order to craft and design lessons better for our students. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Darren Ryan.
Yeah, out of these discussions, we decided that a cross-curricular group would be best. And so our administrators are picking out 11 or 12 of us, and we're going to be in teams of 10 to 12. And we're going to form what you call farmer-teacher cohort groups. And I think it flows perfectly well with the goals of the district. And we think that a key link there is the campus design teams that are, well, that's us, but then also the district design teams that are already in place. We thought as our cohorts come together and we find what is needed in our building, what kind of professional learning is needed, what do we need to do to build relationships, what do we need to do to have lessons that are more engaging, have more authenticity, a more real-world kind of situations, that we have the people right here in our building. And we're our own best resources. And our decision was to form these groups that will include a couple of people from each one of our disciplines, all working together. We also felt like small groups was better than large, so we're going to be able to, in a safe, comfortable way, talk to each other about what do we want, what our vision is that matches with the district vision, of course, and build a better school. And it would look on a chart somewhat like that, where all the a teacher leader in purple up there, and the design team in red, and then all the different disciplines are divided up there. And we feel really strongly that this is a kind of a group that would just be more comfortable for all the teachers. And we see great, I'm social studies department chairman. I see great things in math. I see great things in the English department. We don't always tap into all that. And we think this is going to work, and we're ready to move ahead with it. Introduce our librarian, Brandy Rosales.
Good evening. After we started talking about how we were going to structure this as far as the structure within the three teams, the LISD design teams, our campus design team, and then going into our FTC or our farmer teacher cohorts, we started looking at the meeting and how is our year going to go? Because we can't just have a short vision for next week. We need to have a vision kind of for the entire year. So our kickoff is definitely going to be next Thursday, the August 22nd. And what we're going to do is the campus design team is going to reach out to each one of their cohorts, first as a larger group for 5 or 10 minutes and pull into a smaller group. And it's in these smaller groups that we're going to get the feedback from our actual teachers, or what is the next step? What do they need help with to design lessons that are truly engaging for the students? And engaging doesn't necessarily mean that it's technology driven, but an actual engagement for these students to do it and to excel. So our kickoff is going to design what we are going to meet. So as a campus design team, we have decided that we're going to meet every 3 weeks so that we can go ahead and get back feedback from our teachers. What do we need to give them? How do we respond to that? And how do we go forward? Then that campus design team will be meeting with those LISD design teams to make sure that they're being utilized on our campus, and then going back to our farmer teacher cohorts with them every 9 weeks. And this is just a minimum. Doesn't mean that they can't meet more than that. These are just what we would like to see as a minimum. And then we're going to use our 2 professional learning days for whole campus learning. Now, again, this doesn't mean that these are the only time professional development or professional learning is going to be happening. There's going to be ongoing things, but it's that constant feedback that we need from our teachers, from our students, so that we can design actual professional learning that's going to be helpful on our campus. So this is going to be our targets for the year. It's design goal number 1, number 4, and number 5. We believe that at Lewisville High School in the main campus, we hit number 2 last year after we got the wonderful gift of going 1 to X. So now these are what we're going to pull is we've hit the technology part. Now we need to start building those relationships with students, with teachers, with the faculty and staff, and becoming one and really getting this going. And this is some of the powerful learning that has happened since we've gotten this gift and as our campus is starting to re-look at how we're going to do learning. So in here you see this campus where one of our teachers in social studies, they're redoing in psychology. It's in psychology that they're dissecting the brain, but this is hands-on, minds-on learning on the left. And at the same time, same classroom later on, they're using technology. It's not going to look the same every day. This is going to look, that engaging part is going to look different every day. Sometimes it's going to look classic, sometimes it's going to be in groups, but we have to figure out what that engagement is going to look like in different classrooms and to be okay with that. And here's our teachers learning how to be in a new style learning. So we're not even saying it's just the students. We as educators have to learn in a new way. So we've got cooperative learning, they're learning the technology, they're having these group meetings, they're learning how to be different style teachers. And then last, this is a math classroom. And this has got to be one of those really awesome examples that we found is this math classroom, you've got this group learning going on. Again, one you don't see technology and one you do. It's never going to be the same thing twice. Thank you.
As you can see, as you should, I've turned it over to my teachers to tell us what is best and what is needed. They've gotten together, they've discussed, and they've planned, and this is their vision to move it forward from the design coaches from last year, utilizing them this year with our design team, and then putting forth a structured and an organized manner so that those small teacher cohorts of Lewisville High School teachers feel comfortable with one another, planning their day, designing their lessons, asking those questions. It's really easy for me to stand up in front of the 200 staff members and tell them what we're doing here. It's a whole different ballgame whenever they're in these small 10 to 12 member groups discussing and debating those things and building that comfort zone so that they can become better, know how to ask those questions and find the answers in a quick, relative manner. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate all the hard work you guys have been doing at LHS. Yes, Ms. Duke, would you like to say something?
No. Yeah. 2 questions. What y'all have done is great. This is what we need within our schools. So 2 of my questions is, 1, will you invite more parents into these meetings so the parents more of the parents understand? I'm not saying they're all going to come because we know that, but will you share it with them more so they understand? I'll let you answer that, then I'll ask my second question.
Yes, we're going to roll this out to the entire staff on the 22nd. And each group, the 11 groups, will not be the same. They'll be different. And so I do foresee parents coming in, sitting in on those informational meetings. I do also plan to have an overall LHS informational meeting after the open house or before the open house, whatever, on how we do business and how the adults in our building conduct themselves, both in the classroom and then with each other planning lessons.
Okay. The other thing is, because we've added so much technology and we do have valuable concerns from our parents, how can you or how will you share this vision with other schools? Because we know every student is different, every teacher is different, every principal is different. And they could you could share this vision because it is phenomenal and they could implement their own version of it or use bits and pieces to just share the wealth throughout all our campuses.
I'm quick to brag to my colleagues about what my team is doing, so that takes care of part of it. But through discussions with our zone leaders and at those learning leader meetings monthly, we have opportunities to discuss what we're doing on campuses and things that we're putting in place. And so, sharing that way, I know with social media, this group has a hashtag in which they're tweeting their efforts and things of that nature. So, there's opportunities out there. But we have to, many times, we have to move that spotlight onto ourselves in order to share with others. So we'll be sharing that through the learning leaders meetings and with my colleagues about what we're doing and how we're moving it forward.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate y'all coming out today.
Let me add something to your last question. Every school has a design team. And during the Leadership Academy, they all came together and met, and they shared with each other. So we had elementary schools in the morning, we had secondary schools in the afternoon. So they worked as individual design teams, but they also shared out to all the other design teams. So it was really an incredible day to get a chance to listen, go around and listen to the different schools and what they were doing. Same kind of energy. They're not the same, as they emphasized in not only the school, but the classrooms can be different, and I'm glad you all made that point. But also, the schools can be as well, and so there's a lot of empowerment that goes along with these design teams. Nonetheless, they got to hear the ideas of the different schools during their work. So I think there'll be a lot more sharing out with the teachers from not only inside the campuses but campus to campus.
I don't know if this is a question for you, Mr. Kaj, or for Dr. Waddell, but can you give me a clearer understanding of what is the goal of these design teams? Is it to implement strategic design? Do they pick different pieces of strategic design?
The goal of this design team is to have that on-the-ground individual that all teachers can feel comfortable going to. We all in the school building want to do better. We want to design better lessons. We want to engage students more. Many teachers struggle with finding the right wording or the right questions to ask in order to take that next step. And so we felt as a staff that who better to be a conduit for those type of questions than this design team that we've put together to help them feel comfortable going outside of the box, planning something a little different, and using them as a resource. And as Mr. Ryan said, the experts we're the experts in the classroom. We need to share that information, and we need to give the encouragement and the confidence to all the teachers in order to take these next step with the strategic design. As we move forward, their ideas and their visions, yes, it is all directed around and because of the strategic design, but it is not to be a top-down from them to preach to the cohorts that they're a part of, but it is just to make that comfortable relationship piece, to ask those questions, to build that small group mentality.
I think Mr. Kaj did a really good job of answering that. Probably don't need to say any more, but I would say, several years ago, I heard the Harley-Davidson CEO give a speech about the turnaround for Harley-Davidson. And I went up and talked to him. Obviously, their story is a great story, and their incredible success as a corporation. And I went up and spoke to him afterwards. And a theme that he had in his speech, and then in talking to me, I told him I was a superintendent, and we were talking about change. And he said the way you do that is what we did at Harley-Davidson is we moved decision-making down to the floor. That's what we're doing with the design teams. We're moving the decision-making to the floor. Teachers have not always been in a position where they've had the opportunity to share in the changes that get made in their school, how that's done, be a part of the process, be a part of the conversation. This is the way in which we're having that. It's not the only way, but it is a way on the campuses to allow that to happen and let the campuses have a voice as well. Yes, it's a way to implement strategic design. If it doesn't happen at the campus, it's not going to happen. You can't get that done by mandating it. So you have to give some autonomy to the campuses to make decisions consistent with the design. This board voted for the strategic design last year, and what happens on the campus has to be consistent with that. But inside of that, there's a lot of room, and this is a way to start allowing that to happen. You have to have a systems approach. That's what a design team is. It's a system, just as Harley had a system to move decision making down to the floor. They just didn't say we abdicate decision making. I appreciate UEA being here tonight and providing that thanks to the board for that raise. We believe in rewarding our teachers as best we can, and as you noted, it's not easy in the current financial situation. And taking care of them that way, and the other way is to honor their expertise and their professionalism by giving them a voice, and this is a major way in which we're doing that.
I just also wanted to throw out, thank y'all for coming up here tonight. I know this was not number one on your list, but I appreciate y'all taking extra time to come out here and for everything that you do for our kids, because they're great. They're worth it.
Could you have your whole design team, everybody that's here tonight, could you have them stand, please?
Very good. And as different as they all are, we're really hoping that all 11 or 12 of those teacher cohorts are so different that it brings so much to the table. So that's why we have such a powerful group here, and the farmer teacher cohorts will be a powerful thing to watch develop over the course of the year.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming here tonight. We really do appreciate it.
Ms. Kyer, I just wanted to say to Dr. Waddell and the staff, it was great to be at that leadership conference. I was able to attend for half a day. It was amazing to listen to what our staff has to say and their ideas and what they want for our district, because they don't just want to get by. They want our kids and them to just be so successful. So it was just an honor for me to be there.
Okay, moving on. Thank you, sir. TASB, no, just do some fun stuff. TASB Board Policy Update 97. Dr. Haynes.
This is the last policy update from the 82nd legislature session. This is 2 years ago, not this past current one, the 83rd. This is the 82nd. This is the final cleanup of school board policy to make sure that the school board is aligned with the Texas Administrative Code. So this is a lot more of the legal final touches on the Texas Virtual School Network, state assessments, and communicable diseases. This will go through our 3-reading process, and this is the first step. Probably before we get through all 3 steps, we will be looking at update 98 along with update 97. But we'll probably get that in September.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Early release day for all 3 Lewisville High School campuses for academic decathlon. Dr. Adele.
Madam President, board members, Dr. Waddell, Lewisville ISD is going to host the medium and large-sized school academic decathlon on January 24th and 25th. We're going to be hosting that at Lewisville High School, and we are requesting to release the students from the 3 Lewisville High School campuses so that we can host this event. For the teachers who are involved in the academic decathlon, obviously they'll be engaged with students participating from, I believe it's 26 other districts. And then for our teachers who are not participating in that academic decathlon, they will be participating in professional learning. And so we are very happy to be hosting this. We look forward to all of our students doing quite well, and that's what we have.
So explain what happens at
Easy for us to say, right?
an academic decathlon event that would require 3 campuses being closed for the day or half day.
Well, what happened, the reason, I think you're asking why are we dismissing the 3 campuses? And so we have students who come to the main campus, all during that day. And this, for the second half of the day, those students wouldn't be coming to the campus because the campus is going to be full of other students who are all competing against each other in the different events.
So does it take up a whole school, or it just needs to be that
Yes.
quiet? And then what do the sorry, but I'm a parent that is a very stickler on attendance. So what happens to the kids who are released to their attendance and their work? Their
They will
class
have
time?
been counted present because the attendance time will have happened, and their teachers will assure that they have whatever it is that they need for their learning.
Ms. Latham, I might can add a little information. As a person that's attended a lot of regional academic decathlon meetings, there's usually about 40 teams from 40 different schools across this area. It is a big thing. First off, it's a great honor to host, and it requires an immense amount of manpower as far as teachers, proctors for the 10 different events. These are all academic events, and so it is the norm for the school that's hosting to have early release for the afternoon.
Okay, no other questions. Okay, moving on to the School Health Advisory Council Annual Report. Dr. Rogers.
Yes, ma'am. This is an information item only, so no further action is needed. I would like to recognize Melanie Vincelette, who's the Director of Health Services, and Sheila Gardner, who's the Coordinator of Health and PD.
Good. Okay. I'm happy to report that abstinence and human sexuality did not consume all 4 meetings this year. Our major accomplishments include collaboration with Child Nutrition on 2 projects. One was the recommendation and implementation of the Go Slow Wo program, which is a visual cue for elementary students to identify healthy picks in the cafeteria line. The other thing was we investigated, voted on, and are working on writing the grants for Fuel Up to Place 60. That's a program that is sponsored through a partnership with the National Dairy Council and the NFL. And by writing these grants, we're going to bring money that will support health and wellness and physical education at the campus. And Sheila is in the process of writing those, and we're starting with the elementary program. So we had, we're grateful for the collaboration with Child Nutrition this year because that was really where our emphasis was. And most of the parents that were on the council this year, that was where they wanted to direct their attention to. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Moving on, Lewisville High School 910 evaluation metrics data. Dr. Rogers.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Kyer, if you remember several years ago, we were asked to provide an evaluation of the split campuses as far as the LHS 910s. So I'm going to ask Mr. Bonner to come and talk about this. This is also an information item only.
Good evening, board members. Dr. Waddell, appreciate the opportunity to come and elaborate a little bit on the data that you received in a packet that looked a little something like this. Before we get to talking about it, I would like to recognize the folks that did the work. Mr. Kaj, I don't have to speak for him, but he and Mr. Plunkett and Ms. Flores, Rose Stark, Eileen Wadey, and Courtney Hart did yeoman's work in putting this data together. It's not an easy task, and so I wanted to make sure and recognize them for a moment. As you'll recall, the metric looks at performance in 3 main areas. It looks at academic excellence, pride and tradition, and unity and consistency. Those are the measures which that we derive and put into the report. So both quantitative numeric measures and also written or qualitative measures. The goals or the benchmarks that we looked at this year, 2% on those quantitative or numeric measures, and then on the cumulative growth. And then in some other areas, we were looking to maintain success, and that would be the measures which looked at the professional learning, the endeavors that the campuses did jointly, et cetera. Or we did look at maintaining success in some of the areas where the performance of the campus was in the high 90s. Okay, once you get up to about the 95th, 96th percentile, it's difficult to get that extra 2%. So there were a couple like that. A couple things I'd like to highlight that were areas of excellent performance. Generally, just continued progress and success at a high level from year to year, both at 9th grade and 10th grade. Would also point you to the reduced disciplinary referral rate this year across the board. The promotion rate, I want to speak about that just for a moment specifically. I asked Mr. Plunkett and Ms. Flores to give us some specific numbers on that. 4 freshmen were retained, 4 of 1,000, 0.4 of 1 point. 20 sophomores were retained, 2% of 1,000. In past years, that's been over 100 students. This year it was 20. Most of those were due to attendance. 10th grade performance across the board was excellent, better than state average on STAR. Lastly, one more item rather. If you'll recall, Kilo has a long 8-year history of receiving recognition from the Texas Business and Education Coalition as being a campus which performs in the upper quartile. I believe their performance has been top 3 to 5%, somewhere in there. I asked Mr. Plunkett today if that was still the case, and he reminded me that, yes, it was the case for Kilo, but they have to have a 3-year running track record of history. So while Kilo has received it, Harmon simply hasn't been in existence long enough to receive it. He does anticipate if they continue to perform in the fashion that they have over the last couple of years that'll be something that they receive as well. So that was good news. Just like any other bit of data, there are things that we want to improve on, and so I'll highlight a couple of those. STAR ELA, our performance can get better there, and if you know Mr. Plunkett and Ms. Flores, that's a focal area of theirs moving forward. I'll also say that the geography scores will receive attention from them as well. And then lastly, I'd like to point to what we hope is a 1-year reduction in athletics and fine arts. Those percentages dropped a little bit. But I would point to some excitement by Coach Miller on that. He had emailed Mr. Kaj, and they looped me in. He had a huge turnout at his camp for the 7th through 12th graders. And also we had really good 9th grade numbers coming in, about 90 kids. And he was very excited about volleyball's midnight practice. They had a lot of attendees, and looked on Facebook last night, and they just look intimidating. So that's not in this document, but that's an aside. In closing, and I'd like to answer any questions if I may, I would like to say that we're pleased with the performance of these 2 campuses. When I was at TASA-TASB back in the spring, I went to a session on high school reconfiguration and some presentation there. And as I listened to this superintendent talk about everything they were doing to reconfigure their high school, he started talking about their freshman success rate being at about 75%, and that was a good thing because that was up. I immediately texted Ms. Flores and Mr. Plunkett and said, we're so far over that, we need to be doing the presentation. You all need to bring what you do on a daily basis down here. And so we're very pleased with that, and with that, we would encourage comparison across the state. So thank you very much for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have if I can.
You know, I have questions and comments, but this was an informational item, and I'm actually going to put more little homework in behind my questions and send them to Dr. Waddell, and he can ask you.
That would be outstanding. Thank you.
Just want to follow the rules.
Okay. All right.
And
Thank
we
you very much.
appreciate that. We have, and I believe, Mr. Bonner, do we have a new Central Zone Communication Officer for you? Sorry, I didn't mean to get you all the way back to your chair.
Quite all right. Yes, we do. Greg Weghorst, who is not here, he was here earlier today meeting with Karen and Sarah for the transition piece, comes to us from the American Southwest Conference. It's a Division III conference that is officed, I want to say, in Richardson. Very excited to get Greg in our grasp and joining us. and we're looking for great and continued success with him. He knows the shoes he's filling, and we've told him we expect even better than that, so we're real excited to get him.
And don't forget about Farmer Heyday.
You asked, I'm going to put a plug in.
Please
August 16th, 6-ish to 8-ish. Come on, Farmer Heyday. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on to facility usage report. Dr. Rogers?
Yes, one more time. This is also an information item only. I asked Larry Williams, if you remember last year, the board changed some of the policy, and we actually offered to make sure that facility services monitored the use of facilities by outside groups, and we offered at that time to have Mr. Williams report back, and so Mr. Williams.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Rogers, Ms. Carr, Dr. Waddell, board members. Just wanted to give you a briefing on the report of our after-hours use of our facilities by the community continues to be a very large effort. As Dr. Rogers has said, it was middle school football fields that really brought this to the forefront, not being able to know who was there, the trash that was being left behind, the problems, the inappropriate things happening. This board graciously agreed to allow us to fence those things in to try to force the users to a central point of contact for better control. You'll see on this that last year we had 405 scheduled events at our middle school football fields. And all reports are that the fields are in better shape, the grass is in better condition. We've seemed to eliminate a lot of trash. Some of the neighborhood complaints have gone down to almost nothing, and that's been very successful. Just to highlight these few other things, you can see from the report the great variety of groups using our buildings. Boys and Girl Scouts, 341 scheduled events. The YMCA had 195 scheduled events, although that includes multiple location and days. We've had 405 events in our practice field. The swimming pools are used on a regular basis. We have all kinds of sports leagues, from youth activities, youth sports leagues, to adult soccer leagues using our fields. All in all, we processed about 1,266 rental agreements last year for use of our buildings after hours. I estimate that represents about 4,000 events that took place as a scheduled practice in Lewisville ISD schools and properties. And so would recommend that we continue the practice and that we've been following, and continue our policy and make our buildings available to the community as needed and as desired, and with control as to who's there and what they're doing. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Williams? Hey, you know what? If you have a burning issue, it's like right here. Yeah, it's not a contract, exactly. Okay, moving on then. Annual review of investment policy, Dr. Burnett.
As we've done in the past, as we've done every year and required by law, we have a review of our investment policy, and we have, as you have on the cover letter there are some things that we're advised to, some tweaks to make, adjustments in the language about moving some things around, formatting some things somewhat differently to perhaps eliminate some confusion, and then changing the potential percentage of state and local debt issues, which would be municipal bonds, from 20 to as much as 35% to accommodate what's going on in the marketplace. This is our changes in this policy. It's on first reading, and you'll see it again next month as a discussion item.
Okay, my light's broken. I'm sorry, everybody. Moving on to, Dr. Burnett, discussion items, financial reports.
You have the monthly financial reports in your packet for your review. It also includes the quarterly investment report.
This being a discussion item. Anybody have any questions? Seeing none, moving on to update on construction projects. Dr. Burnett.
We have Irene and Michael Perry that are going to give you the back-to-school report on our 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 projects that we have various phases and that are underway and where we are on those.
Good evening. We've had an extremely busy summer. This is my sixth summer with the district, and I can say this has probably been the busiest summer we've had. Good news is all of our projects are on track and ready for kids to come back, or will be ready for kids to come back. We could end the presentation right there and just say, good news, we're ready. But instead of doing that, we've prepared a little slideshow for you. Let's see if we can take you through some of the things we've got going on. We thought it was a great picture. Well, it's not too late. We're thinking the bridge from Griffin to Peters Connolly. So we've had a series of things going on this summer. Like I said, Lewisville High School renovations and rebuild, it's the project that never seems to end. It goes on and on. We are wrapping that up. Lewisville High School Auditorium, West Side Aquatic Center, Flower Mound High School 9th grade center, and Flower Mound High School athletics. We broke that up into two sections. Marcus High School 9th grade. This is the one that wakes me up in the middle of the night, is the District Wireless Access Initiative. I lose sleep over that one. And the Arbor Creek Middle School renovation. Absolutely. So this is Lewisville High School. This is the latest aerial. I can't tell you what a difference this is. With the entire school all together, all put back together. This is a picture before we started the auditorium. You see the gymnasiums there on the left, parking out in front. We're finishing up some parking, we're finishing up some turn lanes, and we're ready for kids to come back. I think they gave me a defective clicker, is what I think it is. There we go. So Balfour Beatty has been our contractor. They've done a great job for us, been with us. We've told the guys that they've called this site home. It's time for them to go on. This particular slide shows you the auditorium there coming off from the left. On track, as the slide says, to be completed in November of this year. Almost 1,100 seats, a great state-of-the-art facility. This is the architect's rendering of what the outside of the auditorium looks like. Again, started in November of 2012. Now, that's just the auditorium. Complete November of 2013. Interior shot of the corridor. Layout that you've seen before. Restrooms, makeup areas, storage, and a great house and stage area. Progress photos. This is our West Side Aquatic Center. If you've been by there, this is a huge facility. 1.2 million gallons of water is what the pools hold. Just as a little piece of trivia for you. On track, started November of 2012. It is on track to open November of 2013. Again, this is the floor plan that you've seen. Again, that is a lot of water. Some progress photos. My favorite is the upper one there. That is actually an individual standing on top of our trusses. If you've never been on that high up in the air, let me just tell you, it makes you refocus. Purdue, of course. We had to get Purdue on that beam. So approximately 20,000 pounds is what each one of those trusses weigh. So again, the one that wakes me up in the middle of the night, I'm happy to say this one's complete. August 1st, we completed this. I had them run a couple numbers for me, and I actually had them go back and double check this. 1.4 million feet of cable were installed from May to August 1st. A little under 5,000 wireless access points, almost 50,000 man-hours. We were working around the clock. This was a challenge for us. I'm happy to say this one is complete. We still have, of course, some touch-up to do. There's always a wish list for everybody out there, but we're up and running, and wireless is strong. So the DWAI is District Wireless Access Initiative. I'm not going to read each and every school, but I wanted to show you Here's one page full of schools, and not only schools, but all of our facilities, not just our schools and our classrooms. I'm not aware of any that did not get it. Now, I will say, Kamey, for example, we were selective at what we needed at Kamey because we know we're going to tear Kamey down. But we did put enough into Kamey for them to start school this coming year and have wireless and have good coverage throughout. Same at Griffin. So again, every single facility that's up there. This is Arbor Creek Middle School renovation. Actually started, we brought that to you at the June board meeting, if you recall, so we got an extremely late start on this. I walked this with Mrs. Finch today. We will be ready next week. We're actually going to start moving her back and her staff back this Friday back into the classrooms. We're ready for them to come back on Monday. This was air conditioning replacement, roof replacement, ceilings, lights, every piece of equipment you could think about, flooring, everything was repainted. We basically threw a bomb in there and then put it all back together. A couple progress photos. This is Flower Mound High School 9th grade center. This is the one we've broken up into two sections for you to provide a little better update. We've broken it up into the 9th grade facility, 9th grade center, and the sports package. Both started approximately May 1st. Sports package is going to open in September. Our sports package is our baseball field, our softball field, and our tennis courts. 9th grade center is, of course, the 9th grade center and the arenas. With both Flower Mound and Marcus, there's been a series of milestones. We've hit our milestones all summer long. A lot of interior renovations, work that has to be done first before we can go and actually start on other pieces. Paving, utility work, things like that. And we've hit our milestones all the way through. A big aerial shot of this. This is the west side of Flower Mound High School. This is actually where the new black box theater is going to be installed. You can see them working there on that. This is the southeast corner where the 9th grade center is going to actually sit on that big piece of dirt. A couple pictures here. This is the sports lighting. The one on the right is the indoor practice facility on the campus. This is Marcus High School 9th grade center. Again, the architect's rendering of what the front of the building is going to look like. Started that in May, again around May 1st. Again, scheduled to open fall of 2014. This is the south side. This is between the stadium at Marcus and the main campus building, where the 9th grade campus is going to sit. Some update photos. I know I love to talk about pipes and rebar and dirt, and many other people don't, so I'll spare you the great stories about all of that. Again, on track. Marcus is on track, still to open, ready for students fall of 2014. This is Kamey Elementary. This is the architect's rendering of that. We put fall of 2013. We're hoping to bring that back to you at an October board for a November start for a November-December of 2014 completion. So that's a facility we're looking at opening midterm or mid-year. I can tell you, we were concerned about that. We talked with campus, and campus said, we will open in the middle of the week. They're so excited about it. So we're hoping right there around Thanksgiving, Christmas time next year, we can look at moving them in. Just to show you, the blueprints are getting close to being done. We're ready to go out to bid. Matter of fact, we're going to try to go out to bid at the end of this month. A couple or architect renderings on the right-hand side there. Another rendering for us. This is Griffin Middle School. Projected start. We put, again, fall. That's probably going to be a December board. We'd like to get that to you. And probably a late December, maybe a 1 January start for a June of 2015 opening. It's a little larger building than our elementary schools. Again, just showing you layouts. You've seen these things before. Just showing you we continue to make progress in drawing our documents and getting our plans and specifications ready. I added one more here just to let you know that every time we open a building, we track it for a year. This is Marcus Sports. Actually opened in April, this last April of 2013. This was our tennis courts and our softball facility at Marcus off the Dixon site. We tracked that for a year, so we'll track that until April of 2014 in case there's anything that comes up with it. We've had an extremely busy summer with maintenance projects. We've had roofing, we've had playgrounds, we've had parking lots. I'm going to let Irene go through this. I'll be glad to answer any questions now or at the end of the presentation.
Before you leave that, I know that you've fielded a lot of questions about the traffic concerns at Marcus and Flower Mound. Would you kind of update the board and community about where we are with that?
Thank you, Dr. Burnett. We take each concern very seriously, and we send staff out there immediately. We've met with campus staff, we've met with fine arts directors, we've met with band instructors to make sure we have the best safety plan in place for our kids, bottom line. We continue to do that. We've walked both facilities with both principals just this morning to make sure we have the proper traffic access for when kids come back, proper parking. Of course, football games are always going to be a challenge, even if we had all the parking back. We continue to work with campus staff every day. So we feel really good after our meetings today. We have a good plan in place, and we're moving forward.
Just a suggestion, Michael, could you put like a traffic flow map, parking map on their Facebook pages and their web pages to try and get the word out to people before they show up the first day of school?
Ms. Latham, I've talked to both campus principals, and they are in the process of posting all that and making all the parents aware of the traffic flow for both campuses.
I wasn't trying to pass the question. I just knew the campus was already working on that specific thing today. So thank you.
They've already started contacting parents about that, the traffic flow, yes.
Turn it up. I think, as Michael mentioned, we have several projects also that you awarded at the June board meeting, so we've affected several facilities. The first of them is Package A, which is the roofing upgrades, roof and exterior envelope repairs at various campuses. We are dealing with 26 campuses at this time, and we show you the facilities that are receiving the upgrades. The scope of the work was roofing, some sealant replacement, some window repairs where we took out windows and repaired the sill to get the water leakage out, and then wall flashing replacement. These are some really exciting pictures of the flashing, the roofing at the Guyan Elementary School, and some of the other work that we're doing, the sealant repair and the windows that have been changed out at Downing. We have several facilities that are already complete, like Downing, Dale Jackson, Outdoor Learning Center, Public Information and Communication Building, and Bolin. This week we will complete Briar Hill, DeLay, Hebron High School, Lamar Middle School, McCamey, and the Chester Boyd Ag facility. And by the start of school, we will complete Creek Valley, Flower Mound High School, Forestwood, Huffines, and the Campus Support Center. Some of the work will continue through the school year, but all will happen after school hours and on weekends. Package B with the contractor is Big Sky. Also, we have 19 facilities where we're doing a variety of work. The projected completion is November, but we'll be finishing some facilities as we go along. These are some pictures. At the top is a parking lot that was replaced at Dale Jackson Center, which is complete. The bottom left at the Hebron High School track, which will be complete by the 19th. On the right is the new flooring at Homestead Elementary School. On the left here, the new flooring at Lakeview Middle School. Flower Mound Elementary School, where we replaced rooftop units, and then the bottom right is Lewisville High School, the locker facilities. So those projects will continue through the year, but we're finishing. Any work that's being done will be done during again, after hours and on weekends. Package C is a new playground, Phillips May construction. We're doing one at Heritage, one at Pulser, and one at Prairie Trail. The majority of these will be completed before the start of the school year. Some of the shading structures will follow after August 26th. And then the last one, Package D, is miscellaneous repairs at the Colony High School, where we're doing restroom repairs. We're taking out all the ceramic tile in the hallways. We're replacing the flooring at the commons and cafeteria. We're going to head buckled and change. So flooring at the cafeteria and commons and leading to the auditorium will be complete by the end of the day, Thursday, as we have students coming in on Friday.
We will have 3 restrooms complete by the start of school, and again, we'll be completing the remainder of the work, staging and organizing, taking 2 or 3 restrooms at a time, repairing those, replacing those, for a turnover of December of this year.
Questions? I just, Hedrick, is that going to be, I noticed that they just tore up the whole.
The front parking lot
Yes,
will
the
be
front
complete before the start of school. That we're going to stage the 2 side parking lots later. We'll work with the campus to develop the best schedule for them to replace that. So.
Yeah. It's kind of scary when you go by there like Sunday and it was just all torn up.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, but okay, thank you. Anybody have any other questions for Irene? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, moving on. Double checking. Yep. Moving on to our action items. Consider appointment of bond oversight committee members for 2013, 2014. Dr. Burnett. Oh, I need a motion in a second first. I need a motion.
I move to consider the appointment of bond oversight committee members for 2013, 2014.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion, Ms. Sheffield, second, Ms. Latham. Ms. Sheffield, would you like to speak to your motion?
Well, we just need to, I mean, obviously we have to appoint our committee members, but with the resignation of Dr. Welding, I think we have to discuss how we handle those 2 board members that were appointed.
If I could suggest, his resignation was submitted prior to the board meeting, so I think probably those recommendations wouldn't have come forward to the board.
Okay. So approved as with the acting board members. Yes.
All right. I'd like to amend that motion to consider the appointment of bond oversight committee members for 2013, 2014, with the exception of those submitted by Dr. Welding.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second with the amended motion by Ms. Sheffield, Ms. Latham. Okay, any discussion? All in favor of that amendment? Okay, so that's unanimous in favor of the amendment. Now we vote on the original motion. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you all very much. Moving on to the next, consider approval of elementary and middle school 9-week grading period and board policy EIA local. I need a motion, please. Motion, Ms. Duke. Second, Ms. Vaughn. Ms. Duke, would you like to speak to your motion? Or would we just like to go to information from Dr. Adele? Anybody have any questions?
I do.
Ms. Latham?
My concern with moving this to 9 weeks at the middle school, having been through middle school a couple times, is 9 weeks is such a really long time that if they fail a class, fail a 9-week period, it's hard to make that up and pass the semester. That's my biggest concern. And the 3-week notices that should come every 3 weeks don't always happen.
Those 3-week periods just really have to happen, whether we're in 9-week periods or 6-week periods, because our parents deserve to know how their children are doing in school. So that is our expectation. It's always been our expectation. So obviously we would need to, I guess, reiterate that.
What are the benefits to the students to moving to 9 weeks?
The benefits to the students are twofold. If you're a student who struggles, you have an opportunity to catch up within that period. If you're a student who is on grade level or above grade level or gifted, then you have an opportunity not only to learn what's being taught, but to extend that learning beyond what you would have taught in that period.
How?
Pardon?
How are they able to extend their learning in a 9-week grading period versus a 6-week?
For instance, if you're doing project-based learning, the students often find something that is extremely interesting to them that was not necessarily part of the standard. But the students are very curious, and they want to know more about what they had been learning about. And so this gives them an opportunity to take that learning even farther and deeper. So you get the opportunity for accelerated instruction for students who are behind, and the opportunity to extend learning beyond.
Okay. Any questions for Dr. Adele? Seeing none, there's a motion and a second. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on, consider endorsement of candidate to fill positions on TASB Board of Directors. Dr. Adele.
Okay, there's a vacancy on that, and so the board would need to make a motion, if you choose to endorse a particular candidate for this position. And that's up to members of this board to decide who that might be.
Okay, I need a motion.
Ms. Kyer, I make a motion that we endorse Charles Stafford, Denton ISD.
For position A?
For position, yes.
We also have position D.
Position
also.
A. Oh. And Ann Callahan from Stephenville ISD for position D.
I have a motion, Ms. Duke, and I need a second. Ms. Vaughn? Any discussion?
I'm just curious, do you know any of these individuals?
I know Charles Stafford very well. He serves on the Communities and Schools board with me, and we've been on other boards. He's also currently on the TASB board. He's an outstanding individual and board member for Dr. Wilson and Denton ISD. Yeah. Now, I don't know Ann Callahan, but I did read a little bit about her over the weekend. So,
does anyone else on the board know her?
Yes, both Charles and Ann. Charles, I've known, as Ms. Duke said, I've known him for quite a while. He's been a member of the Denton board for a while. I mean, they're both incumbents, as it's stated in the agenda. He's a good candidate. Ann Callahan is she was appointed, I believe, for a vacancy because Faye Bellew was appointed. It was voted in as incoming or vice president of the TASB board, so that opened her seat up, and they appointed Ann Callahan after extensive interviews through some other school board members that went up for that. So she's a good candidate, and she's also a good candidate because she's a smaller member district, which they really have a hard time sometimes getting participation for some of those. So both of them are very good candidates, in my opinion. So, Mr. McDaniel?
This is looks like administrative endorsement, the way it's being brought to us. Is that correct?
Well, actually, we received letters. I believe that what they're required to do is that they have to get so many school districts or school board members to endorse them so that they don't have to go through a whole rigmarole of nominations from the floor and everything like that. So this is the one way they actually send letters saying, please endorse me.
And the answer is no, it's not administrative endorsement.
These are the two letters that probably got.
So what, out of all the nominees that are running, why are we only two are brought to our attention in the agenda?
I'm sorry. Jeannie, would you like to say something?
There are actually only two running in those two positions.
Oh, so there's only two that were running. So nobody even know anybody running against incumbents. Well, that's smart.
Your choice is, as I said, my little piece is, it's up to you whether you want to endorse them or not. But these are the two people who are running.
Yes. And they're the only two that obviously want the job. So just more work for them at the high pay that they're getting. So anyways, so anybody else have any comments, concerns? No? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. And moving on, consider naming delegate and alternate to 2013 TASB Delegate Convention. Okay, I need a motion or a volunteer. I need a volunteer.
I make a motion for Tricia Sheffield to be our TASB delegate.
We also need an alternate.
Oh, and Chris Vaughn to be our
Chris
alternate.
Vaughn, I second that.
Where actually we have an issue with that because Miss Sheffield is actually teaching a class on Saturday, and that's when the delegates meet. So why don't we switch it around?
I nominate Miss Duke.
No, I did it last year. No. I'll amend my motion to
You don't have to amend it. Nobody
I don't?
seconded it. Well, you have to make the motion again, but you have to
I
make.
seconded it.
Yeah, Brenda did.
I didn't notice it. I didn't. No, I didn't. See, if I don't acknowledge it, it's not. It's just floating out there in Neverland.
I'll make a motion that Chris Vaughn is our delegate and Miss Sheffield is our alternate.
I'll second that, Miss Duke.
I have a motion, Miss Duke, in a second, Miss Latham. All official now. Okay. Anybody else want to volunteer, real quick, before it gets away? Okay, Ms. Sheffield's got a comment.
Well, I just want to, consider the fact that it says delegates and alternates be the more experienced members. So I don't want to deny anybody the opportunity to participate.
But Ms. Vaughn, being a previous Texas PTA board member, she has so much experience in this, especially if any kind of sexual education stuff comes out, because that's really all the hardest stuff that comes out for that. So I think she's all set and prepared for to hold the line for our school district. Thank you all very much. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? all in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Just a little bit more for you to do. Okay, moving on to the consent items.
Ms. Kyer.
Voice from above. Yes, sir.
We'd like to call your attention to one minor change in agenda item K.2 I-6, which is special ed professional services. We had omitted in the recommendation the TW, Department of Communication Sciences and Disorders, and we have added them to, and I believe you've gotten a new backup sheet.
Thank you, sir. Yes, we have. If everyone would like to peruse that before we move on to the consent agendas.
Do we get Medicaid funding to help pay for this?
I need before any kind of discussion, we need a motion or okay. All right.
Can I pull something out so I can ask a question? Are we at that point yet?
You guys are just doing this to mess my mind. Okay, so we have a consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, and then we can.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items, Ms. Kyer.
I have a motion, Ms. Latham. A second. Second, Mr. McDaniel.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to my motion.
Okay.
So, Dr. Burnett, do we get any Medicaid funding to help us pay for the special education
We get
professional
some
services?
We get some Medicaid reimbursement for some of those services that are provided by our nurses.
Okay, thank you.
And many times that the population that we're being reimbursed on are our special education students.
Right. Okay. Ms. Vaughn,
Did you need to pull something, Ms. Vaughn? I'm sorry.
I was wondering if we could pull out the code of conduct. It's K1B. I just have a question.
You can ask a question.
Oh, I can?
Yeah, most of the time when you pull it, it's because you can't.
Because you don't like
you can't vote it because of a conflict of some sort.
Okay, so page 23 of 57, which then has the number 142 underneath it also. it's under behaviors, expulsions mandatory, continued, number 11. I was just wondering about the word continuous. What is that? Can someone explain what that section?
I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Ellington, but this is all, these additions all come from TASB.
TASB, okay.
And they give us the updates after legislative session as far as the word.
I just thought we'd want to catch them on the first time and not wait till it was continuous. Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. That's wording used in the TASB student code of conduct example they give us. And continuous is the wording. One time is not necessarily considered abuse, I think, when you're talking about kid level. And honestly, I'd have to research that to tell you, but it would be called something like injury to a child or indecency with a child.
Oh, okay.
This is where it's been repeated.
Okay.
An example would be an older 17-year-old boy and maybe a 14-year-old girl. And so the wording that the TASB uses is continuous.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll talk to them when I'm a delegate. I don't like that word continuous.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. Thank you. Okay, does anybody have any other questions or concerns?
I do. What is a music therapist?
Our Director of Special Education, Dr. Paula Warkle, is coming to the microphone to try to clarify that.
It's a therapist that we have to provide for students who need it in order to benefit their plan. They help kids with their anxiety and with their learning through music and utilizing music and movement. So they actually are certified state, national board certified music therapists. Does that answer your question?
May I ask a question?
Sure.
I think this is Dr. Rogers, the school resource officers. I saw where we were able to get one officer in the colony.
Yes, ma'am.
Any reason we can't get more than one?
Well, at most of our middle schools, an SRO, our school resource officers, are split at the middle schools, and so there's only 2 middle schools in the colony. We are still waiting for the city of the colony to approve that. And they have a city council meeting on August the 20th. But we have been in talks with them for about the last 3 or 4 months. So we fully expect for it to be approved. We've actually already put it into the budget, our part of the school resource officer to be split between Griffin Middle School and Lakeview.
What about the high school?
The high school already has an SRO.
But on this, it just said one. In our packet, it only had one officer for the colony.
You're correct, but I think our interlocal agreement provides for the flexibility of, I'm looking for Mr. Martin. I think our interlocal agreement provides flexibility to add one if their city council approves it.
Okay. That's all, Ms. Carter. Thank you.
Ms. Duke?
I just want to thank Dr. Waddell and some staff, because of communities in schools is one of our agenda items, and I'm really excited that we have been able to we're going to be able to expand to LHS and take that whole feeder zone. So I'm very excited about the help Dr. Burnett and everybody's had in making that work for our kids.
Okay. Thank you. Now can we vote? All ready? All in favor? That's unanimous. And with that, it is 8:53. We got up before 9. Good luck to everybody beginning of school. 2 weeks. Wahoo! Wahoo! Anybody?
Forget school zones.
Yes. Don't forget your school zones. Don't forget Farmer Heyday and everything else that's starting with everybody. Thank you all for being here tonight. We really appreciate it.